Hi everyone, welcome back from your break. Hope you guys had a good one, are nice and refreshed and ready to go for the next session. Before we get started, I want to refer you guys back to the ground rules in our parking lot. So we'll stick to the ground rules, and if any questions come up that I can't handle at that time or we want to save till later, I'll get you guys to write it and post it up there for us. Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so before the break, we covered our introductions. We had our first module, which was leading teams and others. And now we're going to go to module 2, and that's factors affecting performance in the workplace. I took a look at your surveys before coming out here, and one of the things that came up on the surveys was you guys as managers wanted to make sure you were effectively using your training budget. So this session here is going to help you determine whether or not training is an appropriate solution. So factors affecting workplace is what we're going to cover now. Oh, before I get started, this presentation is based on something called human performance technology. At the end of my name here, Sean Ray, you see CPT, that's Certified Performance Technologist. Part of that is I had to demonstrate the ability to use HPT, Human Performance Technology, to increase performance in the workplace. So there's a few simple techniques and tools that I'm going to give you guys that you're going to be able to take back to the workplace to help you analyze performance in the workplace and increase the ability of your staff to do their jobs. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Our objective today. Upon successful completion of this lesson, you will be able to apply a systematic approach to analyze performance issues in the workplace. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Question for you guys. As managers of training budgets, why is it important to be able to analyze performance problems in the workplace and find the appropriate intervention?
It's going to save you money faster.
Save you money? Yeah, that's good.
You do a root cause analysis and you basically determine exactly what's going on and what you can do to actually fix it. And that's
Right.
how you use your training dollars.
Yeah. So your root cause analysis can show you a whole bunch of factors that could be getting in the way of performance, right? Good. Does everyone here have the ability to do root cause analysis? Do you know how to do one? Yeah, a couple people? Some don't? No? You're all. So that's where we're going to be heading with this. So when you guys are experiencing in the workplace, when upper management, when your bosses see a performance issue, what's their knee-jerk reaction to it? What do they want to do?
Their knee-jerk reaction is to immediately coach and try to increase their performance, the
Okay.
employees' performance.
You're in a little bit of a different organization if that's where they're going to first. That's not typical. Anyone
Bring
else?
training in.
Right. That's what we usually hear. There's a performance problem in the workplace, let's throw training at it. Is training cheap?
No.
No. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So we want to make sure you guys are using your training dollars as effectively as possible. So that's what we're going to be working on now, is to give you some tools to do that. So performance in the workplace. Let's take a look at a couple of things here. Oh, you guys answer that for me. Why does training fail? So typical course results. You get people to go to a course. Some of them don't try it at all. Others try it to some extent, but get no worthwhile results. And the third group tried it and got positive results. Out of 100% of people that go to training, what do you think this breaks down to? What percentage? So what percentage do you think did not try it at all?
20?
20%? Anything else?
I'd say 25%.
25%? So kind of agreement, 20-25%? What about the middle? How many do you think tried it? So now we got about 80 to 75% available.
50?
50%? Okay.
I think it would be higher, something like 60, 70.
60, 70, okay. Sean? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I would think around 70.
Okay. So that leaves us somewhere around 30% over the other side. So let's take a look at the actual numbers. 15% go to a course, put the binder on the shelf, never try it. 70% try it to some extent, but no worthwhile results. And then finally, last section, 15% tried it and got some results.
Awesome.
So 50% of your people that you send on training with all those thousands of dollars, you're getting 15% return on investment of that. Doesn't make much sense, huh? So, let's have a little fun. You guys all have sticky notes on your pad in front of you. What I want you to do is pull them out. On the bigger version, these ones here,
Okay.
I want you to write down a performance factor. So what gets in the way of your employees doing their job? And what's important is I need, every time you think of one item, you're going to put it on the sticky, tear it off, and start another one. So we have one thought per sticky note. I want you guys to generate 4 or 5 sticky notes or more each. Okay, so let's take a couple of minutes, and write down what gets in the way of your employees'
So
performance.
just one word on a sticky note.
Correct, or concept.
Concept, as many as we can.
Yes, please. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, you bet. So as we are writing this down, I thought of another question. If you, maybe you can help us with
Absolutely.
that. So as managers, are we going to be in a training position to be training our employees, or we will have to bring in trainers to do this, or is it going to be part in terms of when the training maybe is done? We'll be coaching them throughout.
That's a good question. Let's park that for a minute because I want to get the sticky notes out, Robert. So if you could write that on a sticky note, put it up on the parking lot. We'll cover that off
Sure.
because I think it may change, so I'd like to let the class answer that.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you're done, just bundle them up and I'll pick them up. Thank you, Sean.
Okay.
Mr. Wendy? As well? Yeah. Coach up?
One more. Lux.
Excellent. And I want to make sure you get that item on the parking lot. So as soon as you finish that one,
Sounds good.
take care of that.
Okay.
And we'll get, and I'll put it on. If you write it down, I'll put it up on the
Sounds good.
board later.
Oh, you can go ahead. When I'm done, I'll put it there for you.
Okay. Good. I'm going to hold on to these for a second because I want to explain to you guys where I'm going from here. So, we're going to look at this thing called the behavioral engineering model. It was developed by a gentleman named Thomas Gilbert. Thomas Gilbert was really interested in human performance, but his background wasn't in training or education, it was in engineering. So he took his engineering cap and looked at performance in the workplace and said, you know, how does that work from an engineering perspective? And what's interesting is he took that scientific mind to it, that engineering type mind to it, and came up with a whole bunch of really neat things. His book is about this thick, and if you've got an engineer's type brain, you can read it and learn a lot from it, but it's filled full of mathematical formulas to how he came up with what I'm going to show you in a second, which is a simplified version of his work. Thanks, Robert. So let's take a look at his model. It's called the six boxes model. On the top part here, you've got organizational factors. So those are things like expectations and feedback, tools and resources, consequences and incentives. So those are things the organization is responsible for and has control over. The bottom half of the model is individual factors. That's what you as individuals bring to the workplace. So things like knowledge and skills, selection and assignment, and motivation and preferences. So when we look for performance issues, these 6 things are what generally get in the way of your employees doing their jobs. So, for example, can someone give me an example of what expectations and feedback looks like when it gets in the way? What would you typically see in an organization if expectation and feedback?
Well, maybe the expectations that we as managers might put on certain employees are inappropriate. They're above and beyond what's reasonable for them to execute.
Absolutely. Or in the worst case scenario, they don't exist. People aren't sure what the expectations are.
Yeah.
And the opposite of feedback too is you're not getting any, right? Okay, what about tools and resources? What are some examples of what it looks like when tools and resources are missing in a workplace?
That could be, you know, when, you know, the computers aren't working, or they're outdated, or the software's just not up to par. And
Okay. Absolutely. Are you bringing new software? Okay,
yeah.
good. Franchal, did you have a thought there?
Yes, not having enough people to actually get the work done.
Right, that's a different type of resource, right? So we have human resources and we have IT resources, so there's different types of resources. Good point. What about consequences and incentives? What does that kind of look like? Robert, do you have a thought on that?
When incidents happen and it's not really taken care of, or it's not addressed properly,
Right.
or maybe there's a report or things, but it's not really taken care of, that can be, consequences of actions and stuff. like that.
Absolutely. So your first point, you've got a poor performer working for you. If there's no consequences to that person, there's no incentive to get better, right? What about motivation and preferences? What might that look like?
I find that very closely knit with the consequences and the incentives as well,
Right.
because if you're not motivating your staff, generally they're kind of coming in to do the bare minimum.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're going to be talking about motivation in a couple of days, but that's a good link into it. So yeah, motivation, they're not just not motivated, they don't feel like doing it, and if there's no consequences, there's no hammer, right? What about selection and assignment? What might that look like? Did you have a thought on that?
I guess it would be someone who's maybe not well matched to what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly, they don't have the competencies or maybe even the capacity to do the job you've asked them to do. So you assign someone into a new position and they're like, I can't do this. Okay, good. And skills and knowledge. What does that look like? Sean?
Well, do they understand the things for which they're responsible in their particular role, and do they have the skills to execute?
Good, so possibly a lack of skills, right? Or a lack of
Possibly.
knowledge.
Yeah.
So when we think about training, which of these 6 boxes does training have the biggest impact on?
Skills and knowledge.
Skills and knowledge. Sure, training can teach about expectation, it can teach about tools, but if the expectations aren't in place, all the training in the world isn't going to help you, right? So when we talk about training in the workplace and where you want to put your training dollars, it's right here at skills and knowledge. So now, we're going to have a little fun with this. I've taken the model here and I've moved it over to this flip chart. What I'm going to do is I want you guys, in a minute, you're going to come up, I'm going to give you your sticky notes back. One person can choose to be sort of the group leader, and I want you to read, that person to read off a sticky note, and then I want you to decide which box that sticky note fits in. Okay, so come on up, get out of your seats, let's get you up and moving. And I'll have someone volunteer to sort of lead the activity.
I'll stand.
Thanks, Sean.
Help people.
So come on, move in nice and close so you guys can interact with each other.
This one says lack of incentive.
Motivation.
Consequences and incentives.
And some of these might skirt 2 boxes, and that's okay.
So we'll put those in the middle.
Yeah, you can put it in the middle between the 2 if that works for you. That way you know it kind of links to both.
Distractions.
Expectations.
It's up to you guys, so talk amongst yourselves and...
I'm gonna say either that or consequences and incentives.
Okay.
Where do you want me to?
What do you guys think?
Let's go,
When I think of distractions, I think of something that's taking my mind off of what I'm actually supposed to be doing. So
Right.
it goes against my expectation, or it goes against the managerial expectation.
Sure. Generally, ask the person if you know who wrote it, they can give the best explanation for whatever they're talking about.
This says lack of motivation.
motivation.
This says lateness.
I think that's expectations, yeah.
Sickness.
Again, that'd be expectations.
No recognition.
Motivation, maybe? Expectation.
Consequences and incentives. I think it's an incentive
That's
for
fair.
sure.
Yeah. Lack of motivation.
Motivation.
We got 2 of those.
Lack of skill and training.
Skills and knowledge, we agree on.
Conflicting directives.
Expectations.
Fatigue.
Let's go with the sickness.
Well, who wrote it and what kind, where's the fatigue coming from?
I wrote it. The fatigue, as I was thinking, is people show up out of a context of family and work and outside stresses and inside stresses, and they just can't perform.
Is it
Motivation.
feedback or motivation? Yeah, motivation. That's good.
Okay. This is lack of skill. We had that. Under skills and knowledge. Outside distractions. More interested in what's going on outside of the job than. No, do you want to?
Sure. Tools and resources, maybe. I was thinking like if you, I guess it depends what type of distractions. I wrote one, I think I,
Okay, well, let's see.
Distractions.
You can bridge it.
Lack of interest.
Motivation.
Oh, yeah.
Motivation. Lack of management support.
Tools and resources, or expectations and feedback, or in the middle.
Let's go middle.
Yeah.
It's a great Canadian compromise. Lack of the right tools.
Tools and resources.
Interruptions.
Thinking in the middle with distractions.
yeah, that's, I wrote that one, that's, yeah, I was thinking that.
Or tools and resources.
Yeah, we put distractions, bridging.
Oh, right there, yeah.
Yeah. so
Oh, here's
something.
another one that says distractions. Computer knowledge.
Tools? Oh, skills, I guess.
Yeah.
Skills and knowledge or
Yeah.
tools?
I would say skills and knowledge.
And distractions, other employees.
That's the thing.
Excellent, good job, guys. I'll get you to grab a seat and we'll take a look at that.
Right.
So, Sean, what would you say about what management does when they think there's a performance problem in the workplace?
Buy some training.
Buy some training, throw training at it, right. So, I had you guys create this nice image here. How many things, the factors you chose, were actually training problems? 3. I haven't counted them, but by far, maybe like 5% of the issues you guys identifying your own employees comes from lack of skills and knowledge. The rest are things, and take a look here. How many of them are organizational factors? A lot, most. A few down in here, and motivation. I mean, who creates the motivating environment?
Managers.
Managers do. So generally, if you're seeing problems in motivation, you need to be looking at the organization where the motivation or the lack of motivation is coming from. So really interesting, huh? To see where your performance problems actually lie.
Absolutely.
So to carry on from that, I showed you guys that first graphic where you saw the lack of how courses typically, how much information people usually use in courses. Let's take a look at this one here quickly. So why training courses typically fail. So you got preparation and readiness. So you got the wrong people attend, no clear reason for attending, lack of preparation, didn't use it, already had it. Learning intervention. Okay, the course like this one that you're on now was poorly designed, doesn't work. That can get in the way. There's no question about that. And then finally, the application environment. They had no opportunity to try it, lack of peer support, no incentive, lack of feedback and coaching. Luckily, Contrail, you guys do that by the sound of it. Did not get manager support. So what do you think the percentages are here? How much of a problem do you think why a course fails is down to preparation and readiness?
I would say that's got to be the highest.
Okay.
I'm going to say it's 50%.
50%? Anyone else?
About 50 or 60, I would say.
50 or 60? Okay, let's take a look. It's 40%. So you guys are pretty close. I think this exercise here probably helped you a little bit. How often do you think the learning intervention is actually at fault for a course not being effective?
Probably minimal.
I would say.
Yeah?
Say 10%.
10%? Pretty close, 20. So what does that leave us mathematically? 40. So 80% of the reason why courses fail has nothing to do with the course itself. It has to do with the organization not setting the person up for success or failing to support them when they get back to the workplace. So let's take a quick thing here. What are Gilbert's 6 boxes? What's one? Sean?
Skills and knowledge.
Skills and knowledge. Paul, what's another?
Motivation and
Incentives.
motivation and preference.
Okay. Wendy, what's another box?
Tools and
So-
resources.
Okay.
Robert?
Actually, I was going to ask you a question about the organization factor here.
Yes.
And I see there's a lot of percentages up on the expectation
Mhm.
and feedback, and you related it back to not being a training issue here. But expectations, I mean, if you are expected to do something and you don't know what to do, or your employees don't know what is expected of them, shouldn't there be a training sort of?
That's a really good question. What do you think?
That's a good thought, actually. I mean, yeah, I think there should be some form of that, but again, I don't know.
Well, that's good. You know what, tomorrow we're actually going to get into performance feedback and setting expectations and those sort of things. So, you know, we're going to get to that for you.
Alright.
So let's just hold on to that till tomorrow and we'll have a big class discussion with it. Quantrell?
I was kind of looking at the experience and feedback box, and I was thinking that, couldn't that also apply to the individual factors
What do
for
you guys think?
experience and feedback?
Could it apply to the individual factors? What do you mean by that?
So the way that Sean has explained it is there are organizational factors and individual factors, but the expectation and feedback could be an individual factor as well. If I'm understanding it correctly, the organization can set their expectations and feedback, but the individual employee can also have their own expectations and
Right.
feedback.
Yeah.
That's good. Good debate, guys. Let's save that one. We're going to get into more of that, like I said, to Robert tomorrow about those kind of things. Okay. So, Robert, what's another box?
What is the box there?
We're going around in the boxes.
Okay, tools and resources?
Yeah. And Quantrell?
Selection and assignment.
Good. You guys got it. So, how do you guys think you could apply this model back in the workplace?